So we're back. We're going to be checking out another Dutch video on Michiel de Ruyter. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right. It's called One of the Greatest Admirals in History, and by the channel History Uncovered. So this one is a priority request by Martin. So shout out to Martin. You know who you are. So we're going to check out Michiel de Ruyter, one of the greatest admirals in history. And I believe I did another video actually already that kind of highlighted a little bit of him as well. So, but anyways, we're gonna check this out and jump right into it. Okay. All right.
Michiel de Ruyter was born into a family of modest means on
Michiel. Is that what he said? Okay, so it's not Michael. It's Michiel.
Michiel de Ruyter was born into a family of
Ruyter,
modest
okay.
means on March 24th, 1607, in the city of Vlissingen in the Netherlands. His father was a sailor and later a beer carrier, which left the family with little money. However, their family found strength in their faith in the Protestant Church, which guided de Ruyter throughout the rest of his life. For almost 60 years, de Ruyter's exploits at sea allowed him to be considered as one of the greatest admirals of all time. His brilliant naval victories in the service of the Dutch Republic made him a national hero, and also a beloved figure to those who served underneath him. He is also remembered as a courageous and fearless leader, constantly placing himself in danger from intense fire from savage close-quarters naval combat.
Now, was he part of the VLC? I wonder, or I mean, because I guess the VLC wasn't necessarily a admiral, like a government ran thing, right? It was just like a company. So I don't know.
Growing up in a port city, he is first understood to have went on his first sea voyage at the age of 11 to Brazil,
Oh,
staying
wow.
abroad for a year and learning as much as he could about life aboard a seafaring vessel. At the age of 15 in 1622, he joined the armed forces and fought against the Spanish during the relief of the Dutch fortress.
Siege of Bergen op Zoom. So I was told by Martin, the one that did the priority request for this video, this is his hometown. This is where Martin's from. So that's pretty sweet. A star-shaped fortress city. Like that's pretty that's badass. I mean, that really is. That's cool. Yeah.
A Bergen op Zoom. As
Hold
a
on.
Spanish during the relief
Bergen op Zoom?
of the Dutch fortress of Bergen op Zoom.
Bergen op
As a
Zoom.
deck
Okay.
gunner during the battle, he used artillery to bombard the Spanish forces besieging the city, causing many enemy casualties. Showing bravery at such a young age, he is also thought to have participated in an assault on horseback that eventually led to the relief of the city. After the siege, de Ruyter entered the maritime service as a petty officer for a period of time on a Dutch warship. He is believed to have been captured by Spanish pirates soon afterwards and taken to the border region between Spain and France.
Now, I wonder what the deal is with the whole Spain and the Netherlands thing, because when I did the reaction on Sinterklaas, Zwart Piet and Sinterklaas, it was saying like over there, you know, they say, you know, if the kids aren't good all year long, they'll say that they'll throw them in a bag and ship them off to the ship to Spain. And I guess Sinterklaas comes in on a boat from Spain. So, and then there was the 80 Years War with Spain, which I'm going to be doing a 7-part reaction series on that actually here as well. Also requested by Martin, so shout out to you for that. That is pretty sweet. So we're going to be diving into the 7 Years War, or 80 Years War, sorry. Yeah, we're going to be checking that out here soon. That's going to be pretty interesting. And then, yeah, I mean, yeah. So let's get back into this.
He managed to escape his captors with a few shipmates and remarkably walked back on foot the entire journey back to the Netherlands. Until 1631, he worked as a merchant in the Dublin office of the Vlissingen-based Lomsens brothers. From this time period comes a story when returning from a trip from Ireland, de Ruyter's ship was attacked by a group of notorious pirates called the Dunkirk Hijackers, that were operating off the coast of France. De Ruyter thwarted the pirate attack by smearing Irish butter on the deck of his vessel, causing the attacking boarding party to constantly slip and fall. He had his men remove their shoes and wear special socks that better grip the surface that was coated with the butter. The pirates became easy targets for the defenders, and the attack was repulsed.
That's awesome. Coats the deck of the ship with Irish butter. That's classic. That is awesome. That's something you'd see on like a cartoon or something, you know what I mean?
When his first wife died during childbirth at the end of 1631, and
That's
his
sad.
newborn a few weeks later, de Ruyter decided to participate in a whaling fleet for 3 seasons. Proving himself a skilled sailor, he is made captain of his own ship in 1637,
Nice.
tasked with hunting the Dunkirk hijackers that he fought against years earlier. After successful operations against the pirates, he was commissioned by the Zealand Admiralty and given command of a warship with orders to support the Portuguese in the rebellion against Spain.
Okay.
He took part in the Battle of Cape St. Vincent on November 4th, 1641, as third in command of the Dutch fleet, which fought against an attacking Spanish squadron. The aftermath of the battle was inconclusive, and de Ruyter believed the incompetence and behavior of his commanders led to the result. Disillusioned by his time in the Dutch Navy, he left military service and decided to become a merchant trader. De Ruyter purchased his own ship in 1644.
A merchant
and became
trader.
wealthy through trading from the Mediterranean to the West Indies.
Merchant trader. That's what the VLC was. I wonder if he was part of that. I guess we'll find out, right?
He routinely fought against the Barbary pirates and defeated them in numerous battles. His second wife died in 1650.
Damn.
By 1652, he retired from the merchant service and married for the third time. He had
I mean, apologize for stopping it and talking so much, but man, 2 of his wives died and his child died. Not gonna lie, I'd be afraid to fall in love again, guys. After that, I'd be afraid to. I mean, dang, I couldn't imagine. That's just insane. Hopefully the third one didn't die too. Like, man, this guy's been through enough.
He retired from the merchant service and married for the third time. He had intended to live out the remainder of his life in peace and quiet until he was convinced to come out of retirement to fight in the First Anglo-Dutch War that had started later in 1652. The First War between the English and the Dutch marked a crisis in the long-standing rivalry between the two nations as leaders in world trade. De Ruyter finally had a chance to independently command a squadron of warships for the first time in his career at the Battle of Plymouth in August 1652.
Battle of
Although
Plymouth, huh?
outnumbered close to 2-1, he defeated the English fleet that boasted some of the best sailors and gunners in Europe. The victory was unexpected for the Dutch, and the largely unknown de Ruyter became a national hero in the Netherlands. Serving under Lieutenant Admiral Martin Tromp for the rest of the war, de Ruyter participated in 5 more naval battles against the English fleet. Tromp died at the final battle of the war in August 1653, and de Ruyter was soon offered command of the Dutch fleet.
Nice.
Fearful that accepting the position would anger officers senior to him, he declined. He instead chose to become the Vice Admiral of the Amsterdam Admiralty. The war ended with a treaty in May 1654 with terms favorable to the English that also included major Dutch concessions. Off and on for the next
Oliver
decade,
Cromwell.
de Ruyter spent time protecting Dutch trade in the Mediterranean against the Barbary pirates. He routinely freed Christian slaves from the defeated Barbary ships, further enhancing his reputation. In July 1656, the Dutch joined an alliance with the Danish in the Northern Wars against the Swedish Empire. De Ruyter
I wonder, the Barbary pirates, I wonder where they're from. I don't know, maybe, did I miss it, guys? Maybe I missed it. Maybe they did mention it. If not, I don't know. Let me know if you know.
Dutch joined an alliance with the Danish in the Northern Wars against the Swedish Empire. De Ruyter and the Dutch fleet sailed to relieve the besieged city of Gdansk on July 27th without any bloodshed.
Donks.
He was involved in a blockade against Portugal when he was called to battle against Sweden again in 1658. He led a naval relief force to liberate the Danish city of Nyborg from Swedish occupation in November 1659. In the battle, de Ruyter's fleet deployed amphibious assault troops and small ships that successfully attacked the Swedish-held fort. A few years later, these kinds of troops would officially become the Dutch Marines, with de Ruyter being one of their founding fathers. In
Nice.
1664, he fought the English off the coast of West Africa and recaptured Dutch forts that had been taken earlier by the English.
So now it said that they became the Dutch Marines, right? Let me.
A few years later, these kinds of troops would officially become the Dutch Marines, with de Ruyter being one of their founding fathers.
Okay, so he's almost like one of the founding fathers of like the Marines in general. Like, so he helped create that sort of military force. That's pretty cool. I didn't know anything about that. That's awesome.
In 1664, he fought the English off the coast of West Africa and recaptured Dutch forts that had been taken earlier by the English. Crossing the Atlantic in 1665, de Ruyter was informed that the Second Anglo-Dutch War had begun. Sailing to Barbados, he attacked the English forts and destroyed shipping in the
Barbados.
harbor.
Okay, so Barbary pirates, Barbados. That makes sense. Okay, got it.
Turning north, he raided Newfoundland before crossing the Atlantic and arriving
Newfoundland.
back in the Netherlands.
That's Canada.
At the Battle of Lowestoft in June 1665, the current leader of the
Think.
combined Dutch fleet, Jacob van Wassenaar Obdam,
Jacob.
was killed. De Ruyter was asked again to take command of the Dutch fleet, and he finally accepted in August 1665. He led the Dutch to victory at the 4 Days Battle the following June in his first engagement of the war. De Ruyter's tactics depended on disciplined maneuvers to achieve victory against his enemies, but often his subordinates or fellow squadron commanders failed to follow strict orders. This can be seen when he narrowly avoided a catastrophe at the St. James Day Battle in August 1666.
So they're
The
not
Dutch were
listening?
beaten in the battle, but de Ruyter managed to save the Dutch fleet from greater destruction with a skilled withdrawal. The Dutch squadron commander, Cornelis Tromp, was dismissed after the battle due to negligence for separating his force from the main fleet to pursue an attack on the English. The Dutch fleet soon recovered.
Why'd you
and
do
the
that,
following
guy?
year saw the most famous and daring naval attack of de Ruyter's career in June 1667. The Dutch government wanted an overwhelming victory to end the war, so a daring raid on the English homeland was conceived.
Hold on. This says East Frisia. And now we're Groningen, is that now? Am I wrong? Isn't this yeah, this is Friesland here, right? Modern day. And then Groningen, right? And then over here you got Germany, and then you got a little spot in Germany that's something it's like a German Friesland. You know, I don't know the name of it, but something Friesland. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is Groningen, unless it's here, but no, that's Germany, right? Hamburg's there. Yeah. So this would be Groningen, I believe. And then Frisia's over here. I don't know. Let me know. And then obviously there's Almere and Lelystad and that whole province in this area that was not there back then. So, yes, awesome.
Attack of de Ruyter's career in June 1667. The Dutch government wanted an overwhelming victory to end the war, so a daring raid on the English homeland was conceived and then led by de Ruyter. Sidelined from earlier in the year due to a serious illness, de Ruyter recovered in time to oversee the daring mission. On June 12, 1667, de Ruyter led a fleet of 60 ships into the mouth of the Thames River before going south. He took the town of Sheerness on the Medway and then sailed inland toward the dockyard at Chatham. The English were completely taken off guard by the attack on its home waters.
Now, isn't the Thames, isn't that the one that goes right through London? If I'm not mistaken, I think so. I think it goes right through London.
The English had blocked the navigable channel with a chain stretched from shore to shore, but Dutch engineers broke through the obstacle fairly quickly.
A chain?
Beyond the chain, the English navy stuck in port was defenseless against attack from the Dutch fleet. De Ruyter's men burned 3 of England's largest naval vessels, 10 more ships of the line, and captured the pride of the English Navy, the 80-gun Royal Charles.
All right.
De Ruyter towed the Royal...
So this guy's a bit of a badass. This is why he's one of the greatest admirals in history.
The English Navy, the 80-gun Royal Charles. De Ruyter towed the Royal Charles all the way back to the Netherlands as a prize.
He just towed it back. Would he just tie a bunch of ropes to and just pull it back? That's crazy. That's okay. That's cool. I mean, that's badass. I mean, why not, right? It's a big ass ship. Like, I'd take it too. Hell.
Throughout the raid, England lost 13 irreplaceable ships, while the Dutch lost 0. The raid on the
Nice.
Medway has been called the worst naval defeat in English history, and one of the worst humiliations it has ever suffered in its home waters.
No shit. So that would explain part of. I know that there's a bit of a thing between the English and the Dutch. You know, it's kind of like in the past, so they don't talk about it, right? But it's still kind of there. Like they have like there's these things. You know, part of it's New Amsterdam, right? Here in the United States, got turned into New York City. This and that. So the English and the Dutch have kind of been competing, it seems like, for just global colonization, trade, naval stuff. Yeah, so I guess they're kind of competitors in a sense, and so this makes sense. This is definitely part of that, I think.
Defeat in English history, and one of the worst humiliations it has ever suffered in its home waters.
That's crazy.
The English sued for peace soon after the battle, and the war ended with a Dutch victory in July 1667. From 1667 to 1671, the Dutch government forbid de Ruyter from taking to the sea due to his recurring failing health. However, the Third Anglo-Dutch War started the next year in 1672, and de Ruyter led the fleet to defend the Netherlands against a planned English invasion. The English...
Spanish Netherlands. Okay, so this is when Spain controlled part of... Yeah, so I really am interested in this whole 80 Years War thing. I'm a very curious person. I was not taught any of this at all. Here in America, they don't really teach us a whole lot about, world history as far as like all this kind of stuff at all. So, yeah, this is going to be interesting.
De Ruyter led the fleet to defend the Netherlands against a planned English invasion. The English, who were in an alliance with the French, attempted to blockade the Netherlands to keep the Dutch in their home ports. De Ruyter first encountered and surprised the Allied fleet off the coast of southeast England in June 1672. Both sides eventually withdrew after a costly battle. However, de Ruyter's show of strength against the larger combined fleet led the Allies to soon abandon their plan for a blockade against the Dutch. The following year, de Ruyter defeated the larger English-French fleet at Schonefeld in June, and again at Texel in August 1673. A large part of his success was that he was a master at fighting battles on his own terms. He would often separate larger enemy fleets into smaller groups with skilled maneuvers. De Ruyter's tactical control of his fleet frequently kept superior numbers of opposing forces disengaged from the conflict, drawing smaller groups into battles where the odds were in his favor.
Smart.
The English were driven from the war by their costly failures, and with the Parliament refusing to fund the King's campaign any longer. They signed a peace treaty with the Netherlands in 1674, which left the French by themselves to fight against the Dutch. De Ruyter saved the Netherlands from a joint English-French themselves. They signed a peace failures, and with the Parliament refusing to fund the King's campaign any longer. They signed a peace treaty with the Netherlands in 1674, which left the French by themselves to fight against the Dutch. De Ruyter saved the Netherlands from a joint English-French invasion, in which some consider his greatest accomplishment of his long career. His brilliant naval victories.
So if they signed a peace treaty, so the invasion, French and English invasion, was that before the peace treaty then? Because they kind of said the peace treaty, and then afterwards they came back with, the English-French invasion thing. So that's a bit confusing.
Some consider his greatest accomplishment of his long career. His brilliant naval victories in the Second and Third Anglo-Dutch Wars enabled the Netherlands to maintain a balance of power with England. De Ruyter sailed to the Caribbean to attack French possessions in mid-1674, but returned to Europe when his ships were stricken with disease. In January 1676, he commanded a joint Dutch-Spanish fleet in the defense of Naples at the Battle of Stromboli that ended indecisively against the French.
Battle of Stromboli. I've heard of a Stromboli, like a Stromboli sandwich. Is that named after this place? I didn't know there was an actual place called Stromboli. I thought it was just the name of a food. Like, Battle of Stromboli. That sounds made up as hell. Does that not sound like somebody just invented this name out of the top of their head? Like, it doesn't even sound real, right?
In the defense of Naples at the Battle of Stromboli that ended indecisively against the French. 3 months later, de Ruyter clashed again with the French at the Battle of Augusta. During the fighting, he was mortally wounded in the right leg by a cannonball. Both sides withdrew from the battle when hearing of de Ruyter's condition.
Cannonball, huh?
Clinging to life for a week, he died on April 29, 1676. On
Ugh.
March 18, 1677, de Ruyter was given a full state funeral and was buried in Amsterdam. He is remembered not only as a brilliant admiral, but also as one of the greatest and most beloved national heroes in the history of the Netherlands.
Nice. That was Michiel de Ruyter, whatever, right? One of the greatest admirals in history. So, that's pretty interesting. So I didn't know that they were like fighting against the English at the time, right? And then the whole cannonball. So he got killed by a cannonball, I guess, right? From the infections and stuff and the all that kind of stuff. So yeah. And again, that was, like I said, a priority request. If you want to make one yourself, there's a link down in the description below. Links to the original videos down there as well. And on your way down there, hit like, hit subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Have a super fun, awesome day. All right, take care.